will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated.
Money for jobs and education. Not for crimes and occupation.
Not for crimes and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for crimes and occupation.
Not for crimes and occupation.
Not another nickel. Not another dime.
Not another nickel. Not another dime.
No more money for Israel's crime.
No more money for Israel's crime.
I would hold it in front of you. I just want to read a couple paragraphs from what this letter that was somehow controversial, it became a front-page article in the Danbury News Times. Here's just a couple things they wrote. To date, there have been more than 130,000 casualties in the Ukraine, Palestine, Myanmar, and Sudan. Even with a cyber library of information and images that aptly illustrate the size and consequences of these conflicts, it is difficult to wrap our heads around the monumentality of what is happening. In a world of Goliath problems, what can David do? What can Davids do? But then later they said, during the past 2 months, residents in our community have passionately shown up to Danbury City Hall meetings and implored us, the representatives of one of America's most diverse cities, to do what we can do to address the ongoing atrocities that are happening outside our borders. They have reached out to us with mounting frustration and growing horror as their loved ones and fellow men and women have endured displacement, injury, starvation, and death in Gaza. They regard the work of international and their national leaders woefully falling short of expectations as more men, women, and children mercilessly die. There is power in numbers, and we appeal to you in our collective voice to use your power and your collective voices to offer a promise of a peaceful spring this year to the people, to the people of Gaza. And it was signed Andrea Gartner, Ryan Hawley, Diane Lapine, Sean Ratchford, Gary Simone, Holly Robinson, Joseph Britton, Lucian Giordano, Jeffrey Tomczyk. Could we get a round of applause or some noise for those folks? That was a great thing they did. And then at the next city council meeting, one person got up and said they were anti-Semitic. And all of a sudden, that's a front page article. One person. Now, it was more than that. There was people on social media, Mr. Anonymous, Mrs. Anonymous, brave people who don't even put their name to screaming yells. Ridiculous. If you read the whole article, the whole letter, the word Jew is not mentioned. The word Jews is not mentioned. The word Israel is not mentioned. And that's anti-Semitic. Ridiculous. Contemptible. They had an eloquent letter expressing sympathy for people in Gaza, something very appropriate, and we utterly reject this nonsense that being for human rights and being for Palestinians is in any way anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
There's a number of people who would like to have remarks, and I'm going to call on Justine McCabe, who is going to read a short poem.
Hello, all of you. Welcome, Ahlan. In our support for Gazans and Palestinians, and we like they are from a distance mired in violence and the most brutal parts of all of us, certainly for them. And so in the midst of that, I'd like you all to remember, we all remember the incredible cultural heritage and cultural richness of Palestinians that is being damaged also. So in the midst of this, I'd like to read you a poem that was just published. It's not titled, by Nasser Rabah from Gaza, and it speaks to the incredible spirit of Palestinians. In the midst of this horror, this beauty and depth can be recounted. So it's not titled, it's from December 30th, 2023. And a day goes by and tanks, and the sky a festival of kids flying kites, and blood flowed behind a panting car. And a day goes by and the planes, and the tent of the displaced makes a bet with time. Winter is late. And a day goes by, and the snipers, and the market itself has no salt. So I said, no worries, the merchants have plenty of sadness. And a day goes by and artillery, but my neighbor's funeral passes along slowly. Why rush at a time like this? And a day goes by, and the newscasts, and when evening came, it was a bit joyous to find us all there with none missing except the house. That's Nasser Rabah. Thank you.
Say nothing. So this is the place to be right now. And as was just said, I'm actually on the town board in Lewisboro, so I thought I would sort of share from my perspective, since there's a similar dynamic going on here now. I was sort of pushed into over the edge into more activity when in October one of my town board colleagues made the what was then pretty obligatory "We Stand with Israel" declaration, and I was like in a position where people are already dying by the thousands, and I'm like, is this going to be the only thing that comes out of our board? So not very articulately, I kind of like, but there's thousands of people, millions of people are now cut off from food and water, so this needs to stop. Not very impressive, but over the next weeks, like everybody here, I'm putting things out on social media, trying to get people to care. And we have a small group of people coming to our town board meetings every session and attacking me for being anti-Semitic and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they even organized for the American Jewish Committee to come and give a presentation on anti-Semitism. And when I asked them, don't you think that the rise in anti-Semitism might be tied to the death of 30,000 Palestinians? They freaked out and started dumping all the sort of Israeli propaganda on us, So, but I do have a lot of supporters, but they're all afraid to speak up. And I think that in some sense, this is almost the worst thing that's going on here, because when you think about it, if people are afraid to speak about this, then what's the next thing that they're afraid to speak about, right? So this is really, really disturbing. And it is a local issue, as been said before in front of this city hall. Those billions of dollars could be going to help people here in real needs, rather than to the slaughter in Gaza. And yes, we have to do our town business, but we can walk and chew gum at the same time, or we can walk and resist genocide at the same time. So yes, we have to work on our budgets, but as you think about the cost of the roads, think about the roads in Gaza, which have been blown into bits and have the bodies of the victims scattered on them now. Or as you're thinking about the healthcare line in the budget, think about the fact that Gaza has no more hospitals, and all the doctors and the nurses and the patients have been murdered. So it is connected. It's all connected by our collective soul, and our job here is to continue to make more space, to open up space for other people to talk. They want to speak, they're frightened to speak. Help make that space, and that's what you're doing here today. So thanks. Free Palestine.
Yeah, free Palestine!
Program.
Yes.
we are making some progress. Besides the city council, there was a bombshell yesterday. I don't know if everybody has seen it, but a letter was sent to Joe Biden by 40 members of Congress saying, don't transfer weapons to Israel. Now, it wasn't just the squad. It was 40 people, and included the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and our Congresswoman, Johanna Hayes. There was even mention of our efforts in the New York Times on the front page. Well, yeah, Danbury is mentioned, but in an article about how we and others are vexing, bothering leaders of various localities. All right, let's vex them. Let's vex them some more, because we need many more results. I'm going to call on Ahmad Hamdan, and he will be speaking on behalf of the coalition.
I suppose so.
Okay.
I think this one's pretty loud.
You're comfortable?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Wake up, everyone. All right.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming out today. As you know, we are coming up on Eid al-Fitr in a few days, and I'm sure I speak for every Muslim in the world when I say that this Ramadan is unlike no other we've ever experienced. For all my Muslim brothers and sisters, thank you all for your continued efforts during this impossible time. May all of our efforts be rewarded. And for our 9 city council members who have decided to stand above all of the forces from which have worked against them, to stand on the right side of history, a very special thank you from not only our community, but from all of us who have seen the darkest of times over the last 6 months. Please give them a round of applause. You see, as a Palestinian American, I was born into this hardship. Since as long as I could remember, I've been tasked with the impossible job of trying to educate those around me of the plight of the Palestinian people. And as long as I could remember, I have been met with apathy and responses like, Palestine? Is that like Pakistan? In fact, it wasn't until October 7th and the tragedy that followed that many around me began to not only open their eyes and their ears to the plight of the Palestinian people, but their hearts. Because I, like many others, have had my heart broken every day for the last 6 months. As we see ourselves and our children in the 40,000 men, women, and children murdered in Gaza. As we see our own active duty military members making the ultimate sacrifice of self-immolation. As we see 7 foreign aid workers' lives ruthlessly taken away from them. We have been begging the world to hear our cries for help, and still many are silent. But you see, my friends, the page is turning. Despite the darkness, many have begun to light their candles to cast away the darkness, no matter how small their light may be. It is clearer now more than ever that it is impossible to justify Israel's actions. We can see this change of rhetoric coming from even the highest of powers, as Stanley has mentioned. And all of this is possible because of people like us, and people like our city council members lighting their candles day after day, week after week, and month after month. For the city council members who have not yet lit their candle, we challenge you to imagine the world that you want to forge for your children and your children's children. We challenge you to use the power that you hold, no matter how small, to take steps to forge that world. We challenge you to join us in this call to forge that world that we can all be proud of together. Palestine is a microcosm of the many struggles that divide us globally. We must unite to overcome these struggles, and we will overcome them. Because Palestine is the closest to freedom it has ever been in the last 8 decades. Because we are all the closest to our freedoms as we have ever been. Because none of us are free until we are all free. And we will be free. I truly believe that. Thank you all for coming out today. Thank you, Stanley, for his continued support. Thank you to the city council members for always standing on the right side of history. In many years, when our grandchildren are learning about this very moment in their history classes, they will be able to proudly say that their family fought for a free Palestine.
Lorenzen from the Unitarian Universalist Society, and perhaps we could get him to say a couple words about the excellent position that the Unitarians have taken on this.
Squeeze it in real close. Can y'all hear me? Yes. I really wish I had seen Stanley's email about this before I left the house today, thinking, just going back and forth from the car to the church, I don't need a warm coat.
True.
That'll teach me. I'm Tony Lorenzen. I'm an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister, and I want to share with you the Unitarian Universalist Association, our national denomination's position, that the Unitarian Universalist Association has called for an immediate unilateral ceasefire since October.
Yeah!
And has called for the United States to acknowledge its complicity in arming the military in Israel. And calls for immediate and extraordinary humanitarian aid. So that's where the Unitarian Universalist Association has been all along. And I wanted to share that with you. Someone recently asked me as a minister for moral clarity on this. And I thought that, as is the case with many things, what they wanted was a minister to take their side. And I thought more, I said, moral clarity is easy. Don't kill each other to settle your problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't practice Islamophobia. Don't practice anti-Semitism. Don't steal people's land. Moral clarity is easy. What we don't have is political clarity. But we can't get to political clarity until violence stops.
Right.
So please continue in your call for the ceasefire and humanitarian aid and letting everyone be free. Thank you.